Welcome to Idea TV News Update. I am Chinatu Oje. We begin with the headlines. Manufacturers urge government to set annual local content targets under Nigeria First policy. Nigeria dominates sub-Saharan Africa in 2026 university rankings with 24 institutions. Turkey sets $40 billion trade targets with Africa buildings on a decade of influence. Industry leaders unite at TEXCELLENCE 2025 to drive Africa's digital transformation. Away from Africa, Venezuela deploys 17,000 troops to Colombian border amid U.S. strikes. And in health, African health leaders set 2026 targets as critical year to end polio. In business, CBN and Bank of Angola sign agreement to strengthen financial cooperation. In sports, NAF to temporarily close Lagos Airport Road for fitness walk. Now the news in full. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria (MAN) has urged the federal government to introduce annual local content benchmarks in public procurement across key sectors such as automobiles, textiles, pharmaceuticals, and agro-processing. MAN President Otumba Francis Meshoye made a call in Lagos during the 5th Adiola Odutola Lecture and Presidential Luncheon held as part of the association's 53rd Annual General Meeting. He said the move would ensure that government agencies prioritize made-in-Nigeria products, stimulate domestic production, and strengthen the nation's industrial base. Meshoye emphasized that the manufacturing sector continues to operate under difficult conditions worsened by weak enforcement of local patronage policies and rising dependence on imports. He described it as unsustainable for Nigeria to subsidize the production and employment of other nations through unchecked imports, while local factories struggle with low capacity utilization. To address this, he called for strict enforcement of the Nigeria First policy, with penalties for ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, that fail to meet local content targets and incentives for those that exceed them. He proposed that Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency and the organized private sector, should establish a National Made in Nigeria Day to promote visibility for local products and boost consumer confidence. Meshoye also recommended that Nigerian-made goods be mandated for use in government offices, embassies, and trade missions, while advocating for the empowerment of the Industrial Revolution Working Group to drive industrial policy reforms. Highlighting the theme of the AGM Nigeria First, prioritizing patronage of Made in Nigeria, Meshoye warned that the country's economy, though large, remains under-industrialized. He noted that prioritizing domestic production through annual local content targets would save foreign exchange, create jobs, and build a more resilient economy. He stressed that supporting local manufacturers is not just an economic strategy, but a necessity for national survival and global competitiveness. Moving ahead, Nigeria has emerged as the top-performing country in sub-Saharan Africa's higher education landscape, with 24 universities listed in the 2026 Times Higher Education World University Rankings. This achievement places Nigeria ahead of South Africa, which recorded 13 institutions, underscoring Nigeria's growing influence in global academia. The Times Higher Education Sub-Saharan Africa Insights 2026 report shows that the region now boasts a record 55 universities from 14 countries, up from just 10 less than a decade ago, a milestone described as a moment of celebration for African higher education. While Nigeria leads in representation, South Africa continues to dominate in performance, with 4 universities ranked among the world's top 500. The University of Cape Town retained its position as Africa's highest-ranked institution at 164th globally, followed by Stellenbosch University, the University of the Witwatersrand, and the University of Johannesburg, which entered the global top 400 for the first time. The University of Pretoria also made a strong return to the 501 to 600 band for Nigeria. Both the University of Ibadan and University of Lagos entered the global top 1,000 for the first time, signaling significant progress for the nation's tertiary sector. The rankings also highlighted the rising profile of other African countries. Ghana now has 4 ranked universities, with the University of Cape Coast joining the top 1,000, while Uganda's Makerere University maintained its position in the same band. Botswana, Kenya, and Tanzania each recorded 2 universities to expand their influence through research, innovation, and international partnerships. In Nigeria, The University of Ibadan and University of Lagos led the rankings, followed by Bayero University, Covenant University, and Landmark University, which also made notable strides across indicators such as teaching, research, quality, international outlook, and industry engagement. In another news, TÜRKIYE has announced plans to boost trade with Africa from $37 billion in 2024 to $40 billion by the end of 2025. According to Trade Minister Omar Bolat, over the past 2 decades, TÜRKIYE has strengthened its economic footprint across the continent, with Turkish contractors completing more than 2,000 projects valued at nearly $100 billion, particularly in infrastructure, energy, and industrial developments. The announcement came during the 5th Turkey-Africa Business and Economic Forum held in Istanbul from October 16 to 17, 2025. The events brought together over 4,000 participants, including government officials, investors, and business leaders from both regions. Discussions centered on enhancing collaboration in key sectors such as agriculture, logistics, textiles, energy, pharmaceuticals, and digital trade. Delegates also addressed challenges like logistics bottlenecks, currency volatility, and access to credit as key barriers to expanding trade. Turkey's trade performance with Africa continues to show strong growth momentum. In 2024, Turkey's exports to the continent stood at approximately $23 billion, while imports reached $14 billion, according to international trade data. Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, and Morocco have emerged as Turkey's fastest-growing trading partners, with sectors such as construction equipment, machinery, textiles, and processed foods driving bilateral commerce. Despite accounting for just about 3% of Africa's total global trade, Turkey's growing presence on the continent signals significant potential for further expansion. With continued investment in infrastructure, renewable energy, and manufacturing, Ankara aims not only to increase its trade volume, but also to strengthen its long-term partnership with African countries, marking a new phase in Turkey's decade-long engagement with the continent. Meanwhile, the 4th edition of TEXCELLENCE CWG PLC's flagship technology conference brought together hundreds of business leaders, innovators, and policymakers in Lagos to chart a new course for Africa's digital future. Held at the landmark event center, TEXCELLENCE 4.0 reaffirmed its status as one of the continent's most influential gatherings for advancing technology and enterprise under the theme Future Forward Africa, leveraging technology for global competitiveness. The event featured an impressive lineup of speakers, including Adewale Adeipo, Group CEO CWG PLC, Dr. Mark Van Regimenam, founder of Futurize, Adeburaimo, CEO Alpha Morgan Capital, Bolahan Joshua, Group COO, FCMB, Ayotunde Koka, CEO, Open Access Data Centers, Country, etc. Through keynote, fireside chats, and panel discussion, participants explored how Africa can harness innovation, collaboration, and investments to boost global competitiveness. Conversations focused on transformative topics such as Africa, technology, and the world, powering the future of global innovation, the future of finance, defining Africa's role in the global digital financial system, and Africa without borders, building African companies with global footprints. Speakers underscored the importance of strong infrastructure, agile systems, and forward-thinking policies to make Africa a global producer of technology rather than a consumer. In his keynote address, Adewale Adeipo highlighted the urgency of accelerating Africa's digital evolution. He noted that the continent is well positioned to transition from a region of untapped potential to a global economic powerhouse through sustained innovation, strategic investment, and inclusive technology adoption. Away from Africa, Venezuela has deployed 17,000 soldiers to its border with Colombia in response to increased U.S. military activity in the Caribbean. The move follows reports of U.S. naval strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats, which have killed at least 27 people in recent weeks. The Venezuelan government says the deployment centered in Táchira State aims to strengthen border security and prepare for potential escalations. President Nicolas Maduro's administration has condemned the U.S. operations, describing them as unlawful and part of an alleged campaign to destabilize his government. The U.S. has deployed several military vessels to the region, sparking concerns in Caracas that Washington may be seeking regime change. Meanwhile, Admiral Alvin Horsley, head of U.S. Southern Command, announced his resignation amid rising tensions, though no reason was given for his early departure. U.S. President Donald Trump hinted at the possibility of expanding operations beyond maritime strikes, saying he had authorized covert CIA actions and was looking at land now. This has heightened fears of a wider confrontation in Latin America. Reports from international media suggest that survivors were found after the most recent attack, although U.S. defense officials have not released details. In response, Venezuela has begun large-scale military exercise in border regions and coastal areas. Troops have also been stationed in Amazonas state and along key bridges linking Venezuela and Colombia. Regional leaders, including Colombian President Gustavo Petro, have condemned the U.S. strikes and called for an international investigation, saying the attacks may have killed Colombian citizens. Let's go on a break now. The news continues when we return.
(5G) technology. 5G technology promises to be a game changer by delivering ultra-fast internet speeds, low latency, and the ability to connect millions of devices seamlessly. It's going to fuel the future of smart cities, autonomous vehicles, and IoT devices, allowing them to communicate in real time. However, 5G rollout isn't without hurdles. High costs of infrastructure and regulatory issues in some regions have slowed down implementation. By 2026, the 5G market is expected to be valued at $667.90 billion, with the US, China, and South Korea leading the change. The challenge? Cybersecurity risks and data privacy will remain top concerns as more devices become connected.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Idea TV News Update. Now the rest of the news. In health leaders from across Africa gathered in Nairobi to assess progress and plan decisive actions toward ending or remaining polio virus transmission on the continent. The high-level meeting organized by the Global Polio Eradication Initiative (GPEI) focused on strengthening efforts in areas where variants of variant polioviruses persist, particularly the Lake Chad Basin and the Horn of Africa, and on safeguarding the continent's hard-won progress against the disease. Participants agreed on concrete steps to enhance cross-border coordination, accelerate vaccination campaigns, and close immunity gaps. The discussions also highlighted the newly launched GPEI Action Plan, which outlines a more integrated and efficient strategy that aligns polio eradication with broader public health goals. The plan emphasizes smarter use of resources, stronger partnerships, and sustained community engagement to ensure long-term success. The new hexavalent vaccine offering protection against 6 diseases, including polio, has been introduced in several African countries, while others are scaling up the use of the novel oral polio vaccine type 2, NOPV2, to halt variant outbreaks. Aims to promote regional financial stability and deepen inter-African collaboration. Speaking at the signing ceremony, Cardozo described the MOU as a significant step toward building a more interconnected and resilient African financial system capable of withstanding global economic shocks. He noted that the partnership aligns with Nigeria's strategic goal of promoting regional stability, supporting cross-border financial integration, and enhancing institutional resilience within Africa's monetary landscape. According to the CBN Deputy Governor for Economic Policy, Mohamed Abdullahi, the MOU provides a structured framework for cooperation in key areas such as foreign reserve management, monetary policy coordination, payment systems, cybersecurity, anti-money laundering, and counter-terrorism financing. It also covers staff training, regulatory exchange, and the development of financial statistics and research capacity with a view to improving oversight of cross-border financial institutions. Governor Jas of the Bank of Angola welcomed the partnership, describing it as a strategic collaboration that would help both countries strengthen financial inclusion, modernize payment systems, and pursue shared macroeconomic goals. He emphasized that the pact aligns with the broader objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area and reflects a growing commitment by African central banks to lead regional financial integration and institutional reform. And now in sports, the Nigerian Air Force NAF has announced a temporary closure of sections of the Murtala Mohammed Airport Road in Lagos on Saturday, October 18th, for a 10-kilometer fitness walk involving its personnel. The exercise, according to the spokesperson of the NAF Headquarters Logistics Command, Squadron Leader Abigail Ologun, is aimed at improving the health and well-being and operational readiness of officers and airmen. Ologun stated that the walk will begin at 6 a.m. and end by 8 a.m. during, with specific section of the airport road and adjoining route will be inaccessible to public vehicular movement. The affected route will stretch from Murtala Mohammed Airport MA2 to Murtala Mohammed International Airport. Members of the public are advised to use alternative routes and comply with traffic instructions from NAF and security personnel who will be on ground to ensure safety and minimal disruption. Ologun emphasized that normal traffic flow will resume immediately after the exercise. The command, however, assured that all necessary measures have been put in place for smooth and hitch-free exercise while expressing regret for any inconvenience caused. It also appreciated the public's understanding and cooperation during the brief closure. And that's all we have for your Nigeria TV News update. But before we go, here's a recap of the headlines. Manufacturers urge government to set annual local content targets under Nigeria's first policy. Nigeria dominates sub-Saharan Africa in 2026 university rankings with 24 institutions. TÜRKIYE set $40 billion trade target with Africa, building on a decade of influence. Industry leaders unite at TEXCELLENCE 2025 to drive Africa's digital transformation. Away from Africa, Venezuela deploys 17,000 troops to Colombian border amid U.S. strikes. And in health, African health leaders set 2026 target as critical year to end polio. In business, CBN and Bank of Angola signed agreement to strengthen financial cooperation. In sports, now to temporarily close Lagos Airport Road for fitness walk. Do not forget to follow us across our different social media platforms at Idea TV. I am Chinatu Oji. Thank you for watching.